Are you getting more gigs? Are you performing more? First off, congratulations. You're probably also noticing that your voice feels a little different now that you are using it more. And if you're doing the same old in your vocal care routine, might be time to rethink how you go about it. Hola, my friend. I'm Melissa V. Cartwright, and welcome to the Passionate Performer podcast. You have a voice that deserves to be heard, and you also deserve to have a performance career where you don't feel like you're sacrificing who you are to meet the demands of the industry. So we are here to help you problem solve those challenges, figure out why we're feeling the way we do, and give you the next right step. You ready? Let's go. Welcome back for another Yap Sesh, as my guest would say it today. I'm bringing on somebody extremely special to talk about this concept of vocal athleticism. As I mentioned before, if you are using your voice more because you're out there performing more, you're probably noticing that maybe you get tired a little easier. Maybe it takes a little bit more time for you to actually recover from either a weekend full of gigs or, things are just feeling a little different. Maybe it's time to switch up the good old vocal care routine. And I wanted to bring somebody on who knows this subject best. He's an expert. Fellow vocal colleague and new friend, Maurice Goodwin, is joining us today. Let me brag a little bit about Maurice. He is a licensed speech language pathologist and voice teacher. That combination alone is magical. Based in Houston, Texas, he specializes in the care of voice and upper airway disorders with a focus on professional voice users like yourself. Maurice is the founder of Goodwin Voice and Speech, co-founder of Voice Pro Ed, and serves as adjunct faculty at Lamar University and Marymount University. His work bridges clinical voice care, education, and advocacy for inclusive, evidence-based practice. So we are going to get a little nerdy, but we are also going to talk real life. And that is what's most important for us here today on this episode of Passionate Performer Podcast. Let's dive in. So Mauricio, I have followed you for a long time on the socials. We have so many mutual friends, colleagues on the interwebs that we've interacted with. I've seen your content for years, and I was like, why is it taking me so long just to reach out to you? I'm fangirling a little bit. So when I was thinking about this issue with the vocal load that so many performers have in different seasons of their life, because it affects us all, right? Like I did a contract for the last 2 summers with performers of all ages, but I was in cast housing with people as young as 20. Their body clock is completely different, right? Like going to bed at 2, getting up still at 6 or 7. Iced coffee, I can go and they can belt that high E. And then I'm sitting there going, I've got to front load my protein and my water. I've got to steam and do all the things. So our bodies are different, but there is some things we really need to be mindful of. And I know that you're such a huge advocate for this. So before we dive in real quick, I know that you've got some exciting stuff going on as well. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Yeah. So I have just recently, kind of dove into private practice as a speech pathologist and a voice teacher, which has been really exciting. It's been a couple months of that. It is simultaneously going better than I expected. And, as someone who makes their living working for themselves, I think every other day I'm in the what am I doing anything?
Oh, honey, I know. Listen, I'm 11 and a half years into that, and it's always going to be there. So congratulations. There'll be layers of it. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm brilliant. And then I'm like, oh, what am I doing? But I'm so excited for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying it. It has opened up a lot of opportunity for other things. I've been a clinical speech pathologist now for 8 years. And in that time, I really loved doing as much of the work as I was doing. So I was in front of clients for anywhere from 35 to 45 hours directly in front of clients, some weeks a little bit later. And now I'm just ready for that pace to change a little bit, which will allow me to do better work and also do other things that I'm passionate about and have the energy to do them. So I'm really excited about it.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about what are some of those personal things, if you feel comfortable sharing, that you're trying to make room for? Because I am all about that too.
Yeah. So education has always been a big part and a piece of who I am and I think what like naturally comes out of me. So the sharing of my life and my work and the things that I find helpful online is fun for me. But also education, teaching. I'm starting a new adjunct faculty position this fall, Marymount University, a speech pathology program. I'm excited about that. And then I have Voice Pro Ed, a continuing education company for speech pathologists and voice teachers, where we geek out about this voice science stuff. Outside of that, and this isn't something I've talked about publicly, but
Oh my.
yeah, I used to be a songwriter and I used to make music in my younger years. And so I've been trying to dedicate a few hours a week to just doing that and not having any quality expectations or just doing it has been good.
Good. Oh my gosh, we are both so aligned in some of those personal artistic goals. So tell me a little bit about that because I promise we're gonna get into our stuff, but we are like dishing about so many good things. Tell me a little bit about that. Were you born here?
Yes.
All the things.
Yeah. So my mother is Puerto Rican. My grandparents grew up in Puerto Rico. My mother grew up primarily in Pennsylvania. She was born in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so like Amish country. And then I grew up a little bit east of that. My grandparents are musicians and are missionaries, actually. Mennonite missionaries in the church. I grew up singing. I grew up in Spanish church, Spanish Pentecostal church. So that's where I learned how to sing. And actually from there, that's where I kind of got my start as a musician, was singing and playing in church. And then that grew and I started writing music, and then I was directing choirs and leading worship. I went to a Christian college for a few years studying church music while I was doing a lot of that before kind of going the more classical voice route after undergrad. So yeah, I feel like I've had a few lives in there, but the kind of Puerto Rican Spanish side was the birth of a lot.
Oh, okay. Same.
Copy paste.
Okay, I'm just going to tweak a few things, right? Because I was actually born in Puerto Rico, but my parents moved to Atlanta, Georgia when I was a baby. My two younger brothers were born in Atlanta, Georgia. I call myself a Georgia Rican. I grew up in a Pentecostal, Spanish-speaking church as well, sang, led worship, all the things. Went to a Christian school as well. Music ministry and vocal pedagogy major, because what I really wanted to do was CCM, you know what I'm saying? Pero they didn't have the music business degrees. My voice teacher was trained in the Italian School of Classical Training. So that is the one-on-one training I got. But yet, in vocal studio, we got to sing whatever we wanted, right? So my senior recital was a little bit of everything, in addition to the arias that I was required to sing. And so, oh my God.
Like as we sang that, I'm remembering, what was the big one that we did? It was like the Lakewood, Tu presencia, tu gloria, bienvenido.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna give you another one that's really old school, really, really old school. Alabare, alabare, alabare.
Okay. It's just so funny.
I am having such a meta moment. Listen, maybe we just need to change the subject of this podcast. Okay. Porque this is so cool. Yeah. I think, all right, just knowing this about you, which P.S., like, it has been a hot second since I even uttered that song. Okay, I've just been on my own personal, like, deconstruction journey. So anyway, maybe we need to have you on for a part 2 on that. But I think I knew it. I knew this is why I was so drawn to you, especially when it comes to the way that you present yourself online. Even like when we go into becoming voice nerds and voice geeks, and just really, there's a sense of, let me ask you this question, because I think this is important for this conversation with semantics.
Yeah.
All right. Where the title of this is like, treating ourselves as a vocal athlete, which we're going to get into that in just a minute. But as a voice professional, this is something that, for whatever reason, the algorithms are like showing me this content. Even that is being debated. Like, should we actually refer to the voice or the body as the instrument? I'm curious, what's your personal philosophy on that?
As in like referring to the voice or kind of talking about it in terms of training and
Yeah, so if I say something personally in my teaching philosophy and my coaching philosophy is we say this is a living instrument, right? This is not something I'm going to take out of a case, tune, play, then put it back until the next time I pick it up. I say living because It's encased in a body, and whatever happens with my body, my mood,
Yeah.
my mental health as well affects the way that I sound. So that's kind of my philosophy behind it. I'm just curious if you kind of
Mm.
share that or if you have a different take on it.
So I think this was my thoughts on it have been influenced too by some of my work with the folks over at vocal health education in the UK, this biopsychosocial model of voicing, where as a speech pathologist working in health and body, what
Hmm.
I felt like I was seeing over and over again were that good singers are good singers and run into voice problems, not because of their singing technique, but because of their body. Their body's just trying to figure out, how do I do all
Hmm.
the things that I want my body to do? So yeah, I think this kind of runs into the conversation that we're meant to have. But yeah, yeah, I feel really comfortable using language where we're talking about it like an instrument, where we talk about it like a separate but part of, and kind of take a look at it. And my desire and passion for this work actually came from not understanding about my own body. And when I was leading worship and singing and performing and touring, and I was constantly losing my voice and was constantly
Hmm.
not able to make sense of why I could do some things sometimes, but not things other times. Um, and people. So yeah, I kind of maybe gave a direct and completely indirect answer.
No,
A
no.
little rambling.
I get it. Well, we're yapping with a purpose.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, here's the thing. Somebody like in my work, when I've presented this concept, I work right now with a semi-pro bodybuilder
Uh-huh.
who has got it going on in her mid to late 40s. And this totally makes sense to her as
Yeah.
she comes back to learning how to train her voice for her particular goals and artistic goals. Why do you think there's
Mm.
resistance against this concept of I'm a vocal athlete?
Mhm. I think maybe a little resistance sits in that it's not as maybe artistic, right? That if we take
Mm,
if we talk about things in terms of training and endurance and dose and vocal load, that it somehow removes the artistic piece of what we do, or it takes away like the magic of making music. And I think that's fair. Maybe some teachers really want to protect that part of what we do. And I think there are also some students that are looking for more than just that when it comes to working and training with their voice. So yeah, I may have understood the
mhm,
question before. I
mhm.
absolutely am like all about, this idea of being a vocal athlete and training like one. And so many of the singers that I work with, again, they're not bad singers. And a lot of their troubles aren't rooted in not being able to quote unquote sing well. They don't really know how to train an instrument. And to me, the training principles around voicing seem so obvious and clear, right? And there's some things that we don't know, but there's a lot that we do. And if we just kind of apply those
Mm,
principles to what we do as voice teachers, I think it makes
mhm.
and helps our students get where they want to go.
Yeah, exactly. So for somebody who is
Mm.
either aspiring to perform
Hmm.
more or is already doing the thing, but the load is
Hmm.
getting, they're getting more opportunities, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to say heavier, but it is heavy in a sense. So if we're going to talk about athletic training, just like you would up the weights or
Yeah.
up the intensity of the cardio, how do you translate that for the person that is starting to get booked more, or they're coming home and they're like, oh, feeling more fatigued? What's one of those first shifts? And I know that I'm
Yeah.
asking a very general question with because each person, the care, especially in your field, is very individualized and
Yeah.
personalized. But if you would have to pinpoint just a couple of things that are going on for singers who feel fatigue when all of a sudden they're like, hashtag booked and blessed. What are
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
common things that you come across?
Yeah. One thing that I've felt really helpful to remind humans of who use their voice and their body is that
Mhm.
like fatigue is a normal body process, especially after voice use. And it's not necessarily a signal that we've done something wrong. If I were to leave my house right now and walk 5 miles, I would feel fatigued. That walk was not bad for me and actually may have provided benefits to other areas of my life that had nothing to do
Yeah.
with like my legs being tired. So then I rest. That's a normal response to fatigue. And we'll experience vocal fatigue and think I've done something wrong or I've
Mm.
hurt or damaged myself.
Mhm.
And while we don't want to exist full time in fatigue, right, a concert is tiring. Working all day, going to a voice lesson, and then having worship practice and then ending your night at 9:30 is a long day. So
Yeah.
really then it becomes, how do we manage vocal load? Not necessarily how do I avoid fatigue at all costs. That may not actually get us where we want to go.
Exactly, exactly.
Uh,
And there is such a fear of, and again, this comes with education, this comes with
yeah.
ongoing training. And I'll say it out loud right now because I'm constantly saying it. Ease or flexibility in our singing doesn't mean that we don't feel anything. There is a level of engagement, and engagement versus overexertion, right? That, like you said, is always the go-to, like going at
Yeah.
100% all the time. But that comes with the patience and the training and the tools of working with somebody who can teach you and show you what that feels like. So, what are your go-to resting
Uh,
things for your voice? Because it's not, I mean, for some, it's like vocal silence, but it isn't always vocal silence, right?
yeah.
Like, what are
Yeah.
some of your favorite vocal rest procedures, I should
Yeah.
say?
So a thing that this is my like holy grail, maybe currently of vocal rest is, how do we make vocal rest like an active rest? Sometimes people will say, well, in between my job and my rehearsal, I have a 45-minute drive. That's my vocal rest. But then the problem is that they are stressed and sitting in traffic. And so their body is
Mm,
tight, their breath is tight, their hips are tight. They are experiencing a form of physical fatigue in their period of quote unquote voice rest. And then they just go
yes.
right into the next thing. And for me, I've tried to impress upon some of the people that I work with that not talking is a form of not using your vocal cords, vocal folds, but being intentional about resting your voice and really releasing any sort of on posture, within the larynx is probably going to be more beneficial than passively not using your voice. But that's hard. That takes like consideration of break time. But I think that stuff is important. And the higher up you go in terms of performance, the
Mhm.
more important that becomes.
I like exhaled when you said that. And I hope people are like, oh, wait a second,
Yeah.
like right now. And I was just noticing in my body, like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
where am I carrying or tensing or
Yeah.
tightening? So tell me a little bit more about, we're going to go vocal geek here for just
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
second to understand. You said something about like odd positions in the larynx, right?
Yeah.
So tension in the jaw, like walk us through that as an SLP and like
Yeah.
what that might look like for somebody who's frustrated sitting in rush hour traffic.
Yeah. To use your voice is to like put the body into some form of like on posture. We think about, if you go to the gym and you stretch and you warm up and then you work out, at the end of the workout, your body feels stronger. Maybe the back is a little more postured for moving weight. Your legs are ready to go. That would not necessarily be a rest position. This is where
Mm,
the vocal cool down comes into play. It's kind
yeah.
of bringing the larynx back down into rest position. It's becoming more aware of what's happening with the jaw and the tongue, and kind of resetting that really regular respiration cycle. And so allowing our body to come back to rest is an important part of vocally resting. Because if we're resting with our shoulders to the ceiling,
Yeah.
are we resting? Is that
Mm.
actually physical rest, or is it just not using? And those are two different things.
Ooh. Okay, so let's talk some real life scenarios. We've established what's going on here,
Yeah.
right? Like we think that absence of sound means rest
Mm.
when really you need to be paying attention to the whole vibe that's going on in your body, right? And in your brain and your thought process. And then why we may start feeling like a little lost in terms
Mm.
of, well, I have the warm ups that my vocal coach gave me
Mhm.
or this or that. But if we can kind of zero in a little bit on some real life scenarios that we've all been in.
Mhm.
We have maybe it's a 45-minute commute to the gig. What do you do
That's a
if you
great
know that you
question.
have a singing engagement or a client that has this? They have the long commute. They probably have already bubbled with a straw or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
at home. They've gone through their song twice. Now they're dolled up. They're getting in the car.
Mhm.
What would you recommend in terms of warm up and then after the gig? What do we do and what would you recommend if we have a long commute on our way to a performance?
Yeah, I'm also big on making the vocal warm up as efficient as possible. Folks will spend, for instance, 45 minutes in their car warming up and then go to a gig and trying to sing for 2 hours is just like
Exactly.
not reasonable. So in
Mm-hmm.
like a 45-minute commute, I think it can go back and forth from I'm going to voice for a little bit, maybe do some speaking voice range lip drills without a specific quality goal in mind, but just to kind of keep the tissue moving and ready. And then I'll put on some music that I won't necessarily sing to, and I'll check in with my hips and my jaw and my tongue, so where I tend to hold my tension
Mm-hmm.
and our things that I return to. And then maybe I stretch in a mid range or mid high range, and then I'll kind of open to a
Mm-hmm.
vowel, and then I'll rest again for a few moments and just kind of let the voice sit in this sort of limbo, flexible phase until I get where I need to go. And then maybe when I get closer, I turn up the heat a little bit. But again, when you get to the gig, what are you doing once you're there? Are you speaking over loud noise? Are you talking to the sound person,
Yeah.
outside of your mic and yelling to the back of the room? Like, there's so many small things that, and it's interesting because we're not really talking about singing technique. We're talking about like, how do I keep my body healthy while I'm preparing to do this thing that I work really, really hard on, that I've paid to work with the teacher on. That this is all just
Mm-hmm.
how do I take care of my body so that I can do the thing I do well.
Exactly, right? So then just we've talked about this on the podcast before too, about how do you approach a warm up versus a
Uh,
cool down, right? Cool down is about resetting balance. And a lot of times the warm up can do that. What I've advised singers on doing is where was the majority of your vocal load?
yeah.
Do the opposite. And do you find that, like, for instance, if I was like doing you mid-high belting
Uh-huh.
range, I might bubble down or hum
Yeah.
down,
Yeah. Yeah.
my lower notes, right? So, and when you say, like you talked about specifically, you're checking in with like tongue, jaw, hips. How do you do that? Do you take a moment to actually standing up, either hip roll or I'm curious, how do you reset
Mhm.
physically?
Person. I am a big like kinesthetic touch kind of person. So I will just bring my hand to my jaw. And this has been such a high awareness for myself for years now,
Mhm.
that just touching this area really helps me place that part of my body. Because sometimes it can be hard to know where things are. Your body just doesn't have that relationship. I'm sure there's some neuroscience person that can tell us why we do this as humans. I'm not that person, but I just one hand on my jaw. It
Mm.
kind of helps me not only from the outside, but kind of place some of that on the inside. Usually my tongue comes forward, and I give that
Mm.
sort of panting exhale, which then by releasing a little bit lower in the body, or think about breath, it kind of reminds me of my hips. And then those kind of just become more flexible. So for me, what started off as here are 20 things that are tight. I've kind of got it down to, okay, if I just kind of bring a hand to my jaw, it starts the whole reset process or relax process.
Beautiful. Okay. I'm hearing a lot of good things. And I love this because this conversation could have been like, here are 3 ways to power up your
Sure, sure, sure.
bell, when
We
we
could do
think
that
of
too if you want.
athletics, right?
Right.
Right. We totally can. But I think this is here's why I'm loving where this is going. What I'm hearing is body intuition.
Yeah.
Really getting to know not just what ails you, but also what comforts you, right? What releases you. Being a very body intuitive singer
Mm.
is important for the load
That's
that
great
you're taking on,
language. That's great, great
and
language.
powering up for a belt is so okay and so fun. Pero when we go, 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 we're already heightened and we already think, right, that we just need to do more, do more, do more, do more. I need to warm up for 45 minutes before the gig, right? We automatically assume that increased effort is always going to
Hmm.
produce
Yeah.
what it is we need. And what I'm loving about what you're sharing with us too is that a simple touch, right? Just noticing, like just stop and notice
Mhm.
where it is you're feeling it in your body, where it is you're feeling it in your voice. And just as an athlete has to have moments where their training is a mixture of weights, it's a mixture of
Mhm.
cardio, stretching, yoga, whatever it might be. I think this is providing a variety of things that we are doing that are voiced, right? That we're phonating. And also when we're not, we're still mindful of everything we use in our body
Mhm.
in conjunction with the vocal folds, in conjunction with the larynx and all the organs we use to produce sound.
I think where singers should feel encouraged, and it can feel a little overwhelming, we're all playing a
Mhm.
different vocal sport. And so,
Ooh.
and some people are
Mhm.
playing tennis, some people are playing basketball, some people are track and fields, and other people are
Yeah.
bowling. But even within sport, people take care of their bodies different. Caitlin Clark is going to take care of her body different differently than James Harden, differently than Angel Reese. They're all playing
Exactly.
similar sport, right? The same sport, but it's just different. A singer, and as a singer, developing that intuition takes time and it takes trying some things out. And that's where I think really the guidance of the voice teacher and the vocal coach is important and almost paramount to figuring some of that out. But I also think it's a call to voice teachers and vocal coaches that just because it works for you or it works for one student doesn't work for another.
Exactly.
And so my work as a voice teacher and a vocal coach has become so incredibly flexible when I think about the person in front of me as being completely individual from the person before me and the person coming after them. And that really my goal isn't to tell someone how to take care of their voice, but to show them that they can.
Ooh.
And then help them discover how that happens.
Yes.
And those are very different things. Those are very different things.
Exactly. You are empowering them to do the thing, right? You are not, I mean, unless you're like Beyonce's vocal coach and she's hired you to go on tour with her,
And
that is
there's a
not the
role for that.
paradigm.
There is a role
There
for that. I have
is.
people
There
sit in front of me
is.
and they're like, I have a
Yeah.
show in 2 weeks. Tell me how to take care of this. I can do that. I promise I can. What I would prefer is that we spend some time thinking about how you feel, what works for you, and then
Exactly.
tailoring that vocal healthcare plan around what helps you feel right.
That's been a key to your success too, right? And so thankful that you have said that out loud. All right. So
It's
here
fun.
we go. I love that you have talked about we're not just talking about the vocal folds, right? We're not just talking about the larynx and this region right here. We are discovering that the whole body is a part of this process. For a person who has some resistance around this idea of athleticism, maybe personally they've never felt that way, right? They've never had a movement regimen or, there's some negative feelings associated with saying athleticism,
Sure.
How do you nurture, how do you help guide or encourage a singer to make these shifts or to start being mindful of sleep, of everyday habits, how much I'm speaking versus how much I'm not? What for the person who's feeling maybe even a little triggered, just around that
Sure.
word, what would be that first step you would encourage them with?
Yeah, so certainly this happens working in healthcare and thinking about voice health from a medical model. It would be really easy to become almost ableist in our over application of athleticism, right? That is a very real reality for some people
Yes.
who they feel really sensitive around using body terms because maybe their body doesn't, maybe they've experienced disappointment over what their body can or can't do, or they've reached a place where they're like really okay with the fact that their body works differently than other people's bodies. That's fine.
Exactly.
What I try to do is figure out then for them what does make sense. Where does this click? And so with some folks, this is not new, but we talk about the vocal bank or the vocal dollars, and we kind of try and approach it in that sense. Sometimes too, I'll just stick with voice, I guess. It's really hard to escape that, like, these are muscles. And so even if I don't go full training language, I will go just like, okay, these are muscles. This is like a hand or an arm. And try not to kind of dive too far into, and if you can't do this, then XYZ. But yeah, I don't know that I have a solid answer for that yet. And I'm sure there's some people who I maybe worked with and use this training language and they didn't connect with it. Some people
Right.
tell me that, other people, maybe they just never told me. I'd be interested. What have you found to be successful?
I lean into the from an artistic perspective, what does truly inspire them, right? We broaden that perspective and we go into inspiration, creativity, things that inspire them. And then we just talk about the discipline model just as you learn a new skill.
Yeah.
Right? So if we're not going to think about this in terms of athletics, the kid who's learning chopsticks has to do that repeatedly, right? Like anytime you learn a new skill, it involves repetition. And probably to your point, I can only see it leading into using a term like muscle memory,
Sure.
which is very scientific. So maybe we just say it's science versus using a lot of physical language. But yeah, I think that I have had that experience where that's kind of the road we went down. And again, just student-led, following their lead in terms of, levels of acceptance, comfort, openness,
Yeah.
to where then it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm going to learn this riff, I've got to sing it over and over again. Tools I can teach you. There's the Natalie Weiss model. There's numbers, all this stuff, but you have to actually sing it in repetition for you to master the skill.
Yeah.
And then when they do, guess what you just did? You created new muscle memory. So like connecting those two dots. So I can understand the challenge too, especially in your field, in the medical profession as well.
Yeah. I think what's nice for hopefully anybody who's listening to this is really the goal is to either find a teacher or be the teacher that creates the space for all types of learning and all types of experiences and all types of points to connect to the same information, because it can be applied broadly.
Yes, very much so.
Thing. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we're going to go down just a quick list of your favorite. This could be applied to like just what you do as an artist or what you encourage your singers to do. But when we think of the totality and the holistic journey to becoming a vocal athlete and really broadening your perspective on what you do in your everyday life affecting your sound, sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Are you an 8 hour? Are you a good student and get 8 hours?
I'm not always a good student. Certainly better now than I was when I was younger. And I think this goes back to that like sleep and rest, that those two things can exist together. And if you are unable to get great sleep, are we able to find periods and moments of rest? And that has less to do with body and more to do with brain. If you are not sleeping well, your brain is not working well.
Exactly.
And that will cause other problems that have absolutely nothing to do with your vocal cords, vocal folds, but it will significantly impact your ability to do well. So
I can agree more.
Sleeping enough, then we have to find moments of rest.
Especially if you are bar hopping 6 nights a week, making bank, when are you resting throughout the day, right? Like, so in order for you to do your job, okay, hydration, there's so many creative ways to hydrate. That isn't just chugging water, right? What are some of your favorite ways to hydrate?
I'm old school. I'm a water, tea.
Me too.
I do drink coffee, and I don't necessarily count, I only drink black coffee. I don't do a lot of dairy, so I'm not drinking like lattes, but black coffee, I don't count it as hydration, but I also don't negate it. I'm not like someone that has to create balance to that degree. But yeah, then just eating food that also maybe has high water content or is just more hydrating. And the big one, so I actually see these two as very similar, especially when it comes to the larynx. If you have seasonal or environmental allergies, they must be treated. If you feel like you're constantly dry, your throat is itchy, things are thick, you're constantly responding to your environment, you can drink all the water in the world. And the dry sensation, the thick feeling, the irritation that you feel in your throat could be caused by something that has nothing to do with water. And you may need to treat your allergies.
All right. Well, there you go. You mentioned this in the hydration piece, but nutrition as well. Like, you're not a registered dietitian that I know of, right? So we're not going to go that route. But what do you find that fuels you? There's this whole, especially for ladies like myself, there's a whole conversation about protein and fiber. For you, what do you find fuels you?
Yeah. I would never be able to answer this question in any sort of professional manner. On performance days, I try and eat regularly. I like singing on a full stomach.
Me too.
And if I am not happy. If I'm not happy, I don't sing well. My one weird hydration nutrition thing is that I will drink like one of the Essentia waters or the high pH waters. I know that it is not in the moment doing anything for my singing voice, but it's like the little part of my brain that's like, this is better water for you. You should drink this. I know, hey, anyone who's listening, I know there's no data to demonstrate that, but it's good for me. And so I'm going to do what's good for me when I want to feel good.
Okay, that was a perfect segue into mental health / pleasure, right? Because to your point, circling back around, you could be drinking one of those fabulous waters, right? Like in your commute or on your way home, and you feel great. So do you have a go-to like post-performance? Just have it. I know like for me, it's give me my blanket, give me my chair, and I need to veg out for a little bit, you know, like, so Do you have anything that is a go-to for you?
Yeah, my personal things. So I'm answering as Maurice. Is I do like a cocktail. I will do that. That is helpful for me just in slowing down my brain. I am a geek and I read hard science fiction. And that level of escapism actually feels helpful. I will just kind of pull out for a moment, especially if I'm feeling like I'm over analyzing something.
Mm.
And then something that's been helpful for me that hopefully feels helpful for anyone who's listening. It's also okay to just view your singing as a thing that you have to do. Sometimes the worst moments that I've had as a performer and a singer was when I felt like singing was me, because then when I didn't do well or when something went wrong, it was a reflection of me. And so I've really had to relearn my relationship to art and music and singing with a bit of a distance. And that was actually really beautifully helpful for me. Very, very helpful for me. I quit music for years because it just felt too close. It just felt like it was outweighing all the other things in my life that were actually great and beautiful and fun and that I loved. And so I had to take a big step back. I didn't sing in front of people for probably 18 to 20 months over the last few years. So I'm just getting back into it now and I'm like, oh, this is fun. I like this. I like my voice. And even the things I don't like about it, I'm like, okay, it's just a voice.
It's just a voice.
It's okay.
We are so about that here. All right. Just about like how to have a healthy relationship with your voice, with yourself, with your art, reminding you are a person first before you're a performer.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why you need to take care of the totality of who you are as a human, right? And so thank you so much for giving us just some real world, professional and personal encouragement, who you are as an artist, who you are as a person as well, Maurice. Because I hope, if anything, if you're listening, you could just find that it does not have to be that complicated. We are so good at overcomplicating everything as artists and creatives. And I think just coming back to some simplicity and just really, as soon as you finish listening to this, you can just kind of take an inventory for the next week of your daily habits, right? Of what you're doing, what you're not doing, taking these things into consideration. And as always, probably one of the most important things that athletes do is they have a whole team of people that help them, right? You are such a beautiful combo as an SLP voice coach, but who else would you put on that list for a singer who's wanting to perform more?
Oh my goodness. I've recently just been thinking about this. If I was looking to make the best chocolate chip cookies in the world, right? I might text a friend who I know makes good cookies. I might go to the internet and find a cookie recipe. I could go to my favorite bakery and ask them, right? This information actually comes from everywhere. And information that's helpful for you as a singer may come from 7 different sources. And no one source is more impactful or meaningful if it's the information that you're looking for. Having a conversation about your singing voice with a parent or a friend can feel really helpful because maybe they have something to share that has nothing to do with singing, but feels really impactful. And so I tend to be like, let's open the gate and open your mind to what does vocal training actually mean and where can I get as much helpful information as possible.
Interesting. Yeah. I love that perspective. Yeah. And again, lowers the stakes a little bit. So we're not so like, oh my gosh, the weight of the world.
Yeah, but from a functional thing, sure.
Of course.
Like physicians who feel like they're a good part of your team, acting coaches, music teachers, fellow artists and singers have a ton that they've learned and maybe they have helpful information. So yeah.
I love that, Maurice. Well, speaking of helpful information, if our listeners want to connect with you, find you on socials, share all the goodness, we're going to put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, of course. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Maurice_Goodwin. Voice Pro Ed is our continuing education company that I run with my colleague Anna Deemer, where we just put on courses talking about really geeky voice stuff. If you want to join for any of that, and then you can find me and my personal work at mauricegoodwin.com.
Thank you so much, sir. Such a pleasure having you.
It was wonderful being here.